As a business owner, you're actually always innovating, although often you don't actually know you're doing it. Because if you don't innovate and grow and move forward, you actually die, you stagnate as a business. I've learned in business to sort of pull in resources from everywhere I can possibly do, because lots of people are specialists in their own skills I don't have. So we were introduced, I think, to MSC via Duckett's, who have been fantastic business advisory accountants for us. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are. And when they suggested we went to MSC, it was almost a given that we would just say, yeah, we will. And it's like a package you can present to them and say, look, do this. I don't have to worry about exactly how it's done, but I can delegate the whole thing to them, know it'll be done properly, know that they've got the resources and the expertise to be able to do what we need while I get on with my innovation.
My company, Hook Mason, offer architectural services, and we, I think, which is common in the industry, take for granted probably a lot of what we do in the day-to-day construction work. So when people say to us, you're demonstrating R&D, we're thinking, really, are we? So it was having that proved to us or demonstrated to us that we are doing that in virtually every job we do, particularly those within historic contents where we've got listed building sort of restraints in particular to deal with.
I've been working with MSC for the last 6 years, and as a small firm of accountants we deal with all sorts of industries. I think R&D was obviously going to be most applicable to manufacturing, because by definition you're going to do R&D with that, and we started off by referring quite a lot of manufacturing stuff across to MSC, and they did a very good job in producing claims. Once we'd run out of manufacturing clients, we started to think, who else might it be applicable for? And some strange things came out. So we've seen quite a lot of claims in agriculture, for instance, which nobody really thought R&D would apply to, but it definitely does. Farmers are forever fiddling with stuff, and that counts as an R&D claim. Even areas like warehousing and so on, where you wouldn't have expected R&D to be relevant. But again, people do quite a lot of work on efficiency and flow and all the rest of it. So warehousing is actually a lot more effective from an R&D point of view than anybody would ever have guessed if you kind of thought about it up front. It's taken us around to the view really that the best way to decide whether a client has an R&D claim or not is simply to refer MSC in, let them talk through the stories and come to a much stronger conclusion about what's possible and what isn't than we can do as accountants who are primarily interested in annual accounting and the tax work.
Well, the whole concept of R&D is interesting, because when we initially looked into it, we thought that we probably offered very little in that aspect, but in point of fact, the brunt of the work that the practice does is involved with listed and period buildings, where we've got a whole host of constraints, particularly in terms of the intrusion into the historic fabric of the building. So we're often having to look for ways in which we can stabilise, improve or even repair a building without it impacting upon that historic fabric, and gain listed building consent and conservation officer approval.
There's a lot of consultants around selling bits and pieces of advice. We see it quite a lot in the industrial buildings allowances, and you never know whether you're going to be given a comprehensive job or just told to do a few bits at the end. So with MIC, MSC generally, you get lots of continuity and lots of hand-holding, and the process is therefore extremely smooth. I say often you're running into deadlines on this, and so the ability to think about stuff is reduced. You don't. MSC are actually giving you the answer. All you end up doing, frankly, is putting it on a tax return.
They take responsibility for the whole thing. We don't need to. They don't keep coming back to say, what about this, what about that? They take a brief, which we have to think about, but when that's done, we don't see them again for another year. And meanwhile, they're getting valued tax relief for us, which is in turn helping us for the next level of investment.
The process with MSC was brilliant, is brilliant, in so much as we looked through some projects that we thought might be of use or benefit in substantiating an R&D claim, and they worked with us in looking through those and picked out which they thought were the best examples, and it was just a seamless transition, it appeared, from making a claim to having the claim approved.
The other area that's always quite exciting is the question of whether to take cash or use up the R&D to reduce your CT bill. So there's quite a lot of throwing it back, throwing it forward question. And I've always found that MSC have given a very unprejudiced answer on that one. And generally speaking, we'll look to their client's best interest, particularly in cash flow terms, rather than simply grasping the fee. So they'll usually put the advice out to the client. The client will ring me and say, what do you make of it? And I've never yet contradicted their advice.
The best point is they know what they're doing, and they've been able to guide us and advise us in what we should be putting forward, reassuring us that there was certainly R&D there, which was probably, in my point of view anyway, at least where I thought that we might be weak in what do we really do day to day that demonstrates R&D. But they were able to show us that, guide us through it, make the applications and gain us the approval. I would have no hesitation in recommending MSC because they've dealt with the applications for us efficiently, and we've gone through 2 processes now, both of which have been successful.
Well, there are a number of really good reasons to work with MSC. The most obvious is the fact that their claims are actually significantly larger than what we see most other accountants producing. They're also very critically really good at handling clients, particularly client expectation. Again, if you put an expert in to deal with something for a client, you want them to be able to handle that client and not reflect badly on you, and they certainly get that covered.
I have confidence that they're doing the best for us. We don't need to look over their shoulder. Would I recommend them to others? Of course I would. I have already. Several other companies, I think, are already using their services because of that recommendation. And whenever I get the opportunity, I do more.